Warden Catherine Bell stood at the massive viewing window of Tartarus Station. The prison floated in the empty space between galaxies, far from any star system or planet. Nothing but darkness surrounded it for millions of miles in every direction. This was by design. No one could reach Tartarus without being seen. No one could leave without permission. Catherine watched as the small transport ship approached. Its engines glowed blue against the black of space. This ship carried only one prisoner today. "Is everything ready for prisoner A-137?" she asked without turning around. Lieutenant Gregory Phillips checked his tablet one more time. "Yes, ma'am. Cell block Omega is prepared with every security measure we have. Triple force fields, motion sensors, heat sensors, and round-the-clock camera monitoring." "Good," Catherine said. Her reflection in the glass showed a woman in her 50s with short gray hair and tired eyes. 30 years running, Tartarus had aged her more than she liked to admit. "What do we know about him?" Gregory swiped through screens of information. "He calls himself Jack Harmon, but we believe that's just his most recent name. Intelligence suggests he's been alive for centuries, using different identities. His crimes? Mass murder across 12 planets, suspected in the disappearance of entire colony ships. No clear method, no clear motive." Gregory paused. "But there are never any bodies found." Catherine finally turned to face her head of security. "That's unusual." "Yes, and there's something else." Gregory lowered his voice even though they were alone. "The last prison that held him lost 6 guards and 4 inmates before they transferred him here. They reported similar disappearances. No evidence, no bodies, no signs of escape. Why wasn't this in the official transfer documents? It was labeled as a coincidence. The official report blamed a prison gang." Catherine's eyes narrowed. "You don't send coincidences to Tartarus." The transport ship docked with a gentle thud. Catherine straightened her uniform and headed toward the arrival bay with Gregory at her side. They walked through long, white corridors lit by harsh lights. Every 20 feet, a heavy security door required Catherine's handprint and eye scan to open. "Tartarus has never had an escape," she said as they walked. "We've held the most dangerous beings in the galaxy. Whatever Jack Harmon is, he won't be the one to break our record." Gregory wasn't so sure, but he kept that thought to himself. The arrival bay was a large room divided by a transparent wall. On one side stood Catherine and Gregory, along with 6 armed guards. On the other side, the transport ship's door opened slowly. 2 security officers from the transport stepped out first, wearing heavy armor and carrying pulse rifles. Between them walked a man in simple gray prison clothes. His hands and feet were bound by energy cuffs that glowed bright blue. Catherine studied prisoner A-137 carefully. Jack Harmon looked ordinary. Too ordinary. He was of average height with brown hair and pale skin. His face was pleasant, but forgettable. He could have been anyone you passed on a busy street without noticing. The only unusual thing about him was his eyes. They were dark blue, almost black, and they seemed to take in everything at once. Jack Harmon smiled when he saw Catherine watching him. It was a gentle smile, like they were old friends meeting after a long time apart. "Prisoner transfer complete," one of the transport officers announced. "Prisoner A-137 is now in Tartarus custody." The officers removed Jack's energy cuffs and stepped back into their ship quickly. Catherine noticed they seemed eager to leave. The ship sealed its doors immediately after they entered. "Welcome to Tartarus Station," Catherine said through the communication system. "I am Warden Bell." Jack looked around the room with curious eyes. "What an impressive place you have here, Warden Bell. So far from everything, so isolated." His voice was soft and smooth with no accent Catherine could place. "Tartarus holds the most dangerous criminals in known space," Catherine said. "It was built to be escape-proof." Jack's smile widened slightly. "I'm not planning to escape, Warden. This is exactly where I want to be." A chill ran down Catherine's spine, though she kept her face neutral. Gregory stepped forward. "You'll be housed in cell block Omega. You'll have no contact with other prisoners for the first 30 days. After that, we'll evaluate your behavior." "That seems reasonable." Jack said pleasantly. Though I look forward to meeting my fellow inmates eventually. The 6 guards surrounded Jack and led him through another security door towards cell block Omega. Catherine and Gregory watched them go. I don't like him, Gregory said quietly. We're not supposed to like the inmates, Catherine replied. It's not that. Did you notice how the transport officers couldn't wait to get away from him? Catherine nodded slowly. Set up a call with their captain. I want to know everything about the journey here. Later that evening, Catherine sat in her office reviewing Jack Harmon's file again. The information was frustratingly incomplete. Birth records missing. Conflicting reports about his appearance over the years. Crimes with no physical evidence. Her communication screen lit up with an incoming call. It was Dr. Elaine Martinez, the prison psychologist. I just finished my initial assessment of prisoner A137, Elaine said, her face serious on the screen. And? Catherine prompted. He's unusual. He answered all my questions perfectly. Too perfectly. Like he knew exactly what I wanted to hear. Is he dangerous? Elaine hesitated. All our inmates are dangerous, Catherine. That's why they're here. But this one... She shook her head slightly. He doesn't seem to think like a human. The way he watches people, it's like he's studying a different species. Keep a close eye on him, Catherine ordered. Daily sessions for now. After ending the call, Catherine walked to the window in her office. From here, she could see the massive prison structure extending out into space like a metal spider. Somewhere, in there, Jack Harmon was settling into his cell. For the first time in years, Catherine felt uneasy in her own prison. Jack's words echoed in her mind. This is exactly where I want to be. Why would anyone want to be in Tartarus? The thought troubled her as she stared out at the endless darkness of space. In cell block Omega, Jack Harmon sat perfectly still on his bed. His eyes were closed, but he wasn't sleeping. He was listening. Listening to the hum of the prison systems. Listening to the footsteps of guards. Listening to the distant sounds of 1,000 of the galaxy's worst criminals, all gathered in one place, all waiting for him. A small smile formed on his lips. After centuries of hunting one by one, he finally had a feast laid out before him. He just needed to be patient a little longer. 2 months passed without incident. Jack Harmon followed every rule. He ate his meals quietly. He exercised during the allowed times. He read books from the prison library. The guards began to relax around him despite Warden Bell's warnings to stay alert. After 30 days of isolation, Jack was allowed to have a cellmate and join the general prison area for limited times. His cellmate was Victor Reyes, a man who had killed dozens of people in the Centauri colonies. Victor was large and covered in scars. Most inmates feared him. Jack did not. Why aren't you afraid of me? Victor asked one night, sitting on the edge of his bed and staring at Jack. Jack looked up from his book with a small smile. Should I be? Everyone else is. I'm not everyone else, Jack said simply. He returned to his reading. Victor didn't like this answer. He stood up, his large frame towering over Jack. You think you're better than me? Jack closed his book and placed it beside him. No, Victor. I think we're just different kinds of hungry. The next morning, Victor Reyes was gone. His bed was made. His few belongings remained untouched. The cell door showed no signs of being opened during the night. The security cameras revealed nothing unusual. The guards searched every inch of Tartarus. They checked all ships and escape pods. They scanned for hidden passages. They found nothing. People don't just disappear, Lieutenant Gregory Phillips said as he reviewed the security footage for the 20th time. The screen showed Jack sleeping peacefully all night. Victor was visible until 2:17 a.m., then the image seemed to flicker slightly. After that, Victor was simply no longer there. Could it be a glitch in the recording? Catherine asked, leaning closer to the screen. The system has triple backups, Gregory said. All 3 recordings show the same thing. When they questioned Jack about his missing cellmate, he showed no concern. Victor decided to become part of something greater than himself, he said calmly. Dr. Elaine Martinez increased her sessions with Jack to twice daily. She found him cooperative and pleasant, but his answers troubled her more each day. "Do you know what happened to Victor?" she asked during one session. "He's still here," Jack replied. "Just not in the form you recognize." "What does that mean?" Jack smiled. "Everything alive wants to survive, Doctor. But there are different ways to survive. Some of us find more creative methods." 3 weeks after Victor's disappearance, another inmate vanished. Lena Wolf, a woman who had bombed 3 space stations, disappeared while working in the prison kitchen. Again, the camera showed a slight flicker, and then she was gone. Over the next month, 2 more inmates disappeared under the same impossible circumstances. Each time, security was tightened. Each time, nothing was found. Fear spread through Tartarus like a disease. Catherine called an emergency meeting with her senior staff. "We have a serious problem," she said once they were all seated in the secure conference room. 4 inmates have vanished without trace. "The common factor is Jack Harmon," Gregory said. "He was near each person before they disappeared." "But how is he doing it?" asked Chief Engineer Paul Weber. "We've scanned him multiple times. He has no technology, no weapons, nothing." Dr. Martinez cleared her throat. "I have a theory, but it sounds crazy." "At this point, I'll take crazy," Catherine said. "The way Jack talks about the missing inmates, he always says they're still here, that they've become part of something greater." Elaine hesitated. "What if he's somehow absorbing them?" The room fell silent. "That's impossible," Paul finally said. "Is it?" Elaine countered. "We've encountered species that can change their shape, species that can turn invisible, species that can live for thousands of years. Who knows what Jack Harmon really is?" Catherine's tablet chimed with an alert. Another inmate was missing. This time it was Frank Carter, a former pirate who had raided colony ships. He had been in the shower area when he vanished. "Lock down the entire prison," Catherine ordered. "No one enters or leaves any area without escort. And move Jack Harmon back to isolation immediately." When guards came to take Jack back to cell block Omega, he went willingly. "It won't make any difference," he told them with his ever-present smile. "Walls can't stop hunger." That night, Catherine couldn't sleep. She paced her office, thinking about what Dr. Martinez had said. Could Jack Harmon really be something other than human? Something that could somehow consume other beings? Her communication screen lit up. It was Gregory, his face pale with shock. "You need to see this," he said. "Security camera 7 just caught something." Catherine rushed to the security center. Gregory had a video loop playing on the main screen. It showed a corridor outside Jack's isolation cell. The image was clear. Jack was sitting on his bed, visible through the small window in his cell door. But as they watched, something strange happened. Jack's outline seemed to blur. Then, like smoke passing through a crack, a thin wisp of what looked like dark mist seeped out from under his door. The mist moved down the corridor, staying close to the walls. It passed several empty cells before stopping at one that contained Diego Vega, a man convicted of destroying an entire space colony. The dark mist slipped under Diego's door. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then the mist emerged again, now larger and moving faster. It returned the way it came, sliding, under Jack's door. Inside his cell, Jack's form solidified once more. He looked directly at the camera and smiled. "Run a check on Diego Vega," Catherine ordered, her voice barely above a whisper. A guard quickly pulled up the feed from Diego's cell. The bed was empty. "That's impossible," Paul Weber said, staring at the footage. "No living thing can turn into mist and pass through solid objects." "Jack Harmon isn't just taking their bodies," Dr. Martinez said, her face ashen. "He's taking everything. Their essence, their very being." Catherine made a decision. "Contact Galactic Security. We need to transfer Jack Harmon off this station immediately." "Transfer him where?" Gregory asked. "Tartarus is supposed to be the most secure facility in existence. If he can escape his cell here, we can't keep him," Catherine insisted. "He's not just a danger to the other prisoners. He's a danger to everyone on this station." As they argued about what to do, none of them noticed the small wisp of dark mist seeping through a vent in the ceiling of the security center. It hung They're listening to every word they said. Back in his cell, Jack Harmon lay on his bed, eyes closed in concentration. Part of him was in the security center hearing their plans. Another part was exploring the ventilation system, learning every path through the station. And yet another part was drifting through cell block D, looking for its next meal. Soon he thought. Soon he would be strong enough for the next phase. The prison staff still thought this was about escape. They didn't understand. Tartarus wasn't his prison. It was his feeding ground. 6 months after Jack Harmon arrived at Tartarus, 17 inmates had vanished. The remaining prisoners were terrified. Many refused to sleep. Some tried to barricade themselves in their cells. Others formed groups for protection, though it did no good. One by one, they disappeared. Warden Catherine Bell had sent urgent messages to Galactic Security, but the response was always the same. Contain the situation. Reinforcements will arrive when available. No one wanted to risk bringing Jack Harmon to another facility. Catherine, Lieutenant Gregory Phillips, and Dr. Elaine Martinez met in the most secure room in Tartarus, a small chamber with no vents, no windows, and walls made of 3 feet of solid metal. They swept the room for any sign of Jack's missed form before speaking. "I've been studying the pattern of disappearances," Elaine said, spreading paper files on the table. She used paper because it couldn't be hacked or watched electronically. "It's not random. Jack is choosing his victims carefully." Catherine leaned forward. "How so?" "He started with the violent offenders. Victor Reyes, Frank Carter, Diego Vega, all known for extreme violence. Then he moved to the strategic thinkers, the manipulators, the planners. He's selecting them by their skills," Gregory realized. "Exactly," Elaine nodded. "It's as if he's absorbing not just their bodies but their abilities, their knowledge." "So he's not just feeding," Catherine said quietly. "He's upgrading himself." The 3 of them looked at each other, the horror of this idea sinking in. "We need to warn the staff," Gregory said. "If Jack can become mist and pass through walls, no one is safe. If we cause a panic, we could lose control of the entire prison," Catherine countered. "We need to handle this carefully." "We may not have time for careful," Elaine said. "Based on the increasing frequency of disappearances, Jack is getting stronger and faster with each victim." Meanwhile, in the general prison area, something strange was happening. Inmates who once fought each other were now working together, but not to protect themselves from Jack. They were protecting Jack. Cult had formed around him. Dozens of prisoners left food offerings outside his isolation cell. They whispered his name like a prayer. Some carved symbols into their skin that matched strange markings Jack had drawn on his cell walls. One of these followers was Steve Boyd, a former scientist who had used his knowledge to develop terrible weapons. Steve knelt outside Jack's cell, every day pressing his hands against the door. "Why do you worship him?" a guard asked Steve one day. "He's killing your fellow inmates." "Not killing," Steve said with a distant smile. "Saving. We will all join with him, become one with him. It's beautiful." The guard reported this to Catherine, who ordered Steve moved to a different cell block. But when guards came for him, Steve fought wildly, screaming that he had been chosen to be next. That night, alarms blared throughout Tartarus. Jack Harmon's isolation cell was empty. The door remained locked. The cameras showed nothing unusual. One moment Jack was there, the next he wasn't. Catherine ordered an immediate search. Every guard and security officer combed the station, checking every room, every corridor, every possible hiding place. They found Jack in the prison library sitting calmly at a table with a book open before him. 6 guards surrounded him with weapons drawn. "How did you get out of your cell?" Gregory demanded. Jack looked up with his pleasant smile. "I was never really in it, Lieutenant. Not all of me, anyway." "Return to your cell immediately," Gregory ordered. "Of course," Jack said, closing his book. "I just wanted something new to read. The mind gets hungry too, you know." As the guards escorted Jack back to isolation, Catherine and Elaine watched from the security center. "He wanted us to find him there," Elaine said. "He's playing with us." "But why?" Catherine wondered. What's his end goal? That question was answered 3 hours later when every alarm in Tartarus suddenly triggered at once. The lights flickered throughout the station. Emergency systems came online, then failed. Catherine rushed to the security center. The screens showed chaos. An entire cell block, 23 prisoners, had vanished simultaneously. Not just the prisoners, but their beds, their possessions, everything in their cells. Only empty rooms remained. How is this possible? Catherine whispered, staring at the screens. On another monitor, they could see Jack sitting cross-legged in his cell. His eyes were closed, but when Catherine looked closer, she gasped. The irises of his eyes were moving, swirling like smoke, reflecting light that wasn't there. He's evolving, Elaine said, her voice shaking. Becoming something more. Catherine made a decision. We evacuate now. Get all staff to the emergency shuttles. What about the remaining prisoners? Gregory asked. Catherine looked at him grimly. We have 200 staff members and 400 prisoners left. I won't risk any more lives. Send out the evacuation order. But it was already too late. Throughout Tartarus, dark mist began seeping from vents, from cracks in walls, from under doors. It moved with purpose now, not hunting individual prey but spreading like a flood. In the security center, they watched in horror as the mist reached the first group of guards heading for the shuttles. The mist surrounded them, and then they were gone. Not just gone. The space they had occupied seemed to bend for a moment, as if reality itself was warped. It's not just the people, Gregory said, his face pale as he studied the readings on his screen. The mist is consuming energy, matter, everything it touches. In his cell, Jack Harmon stood up slowly. His body no longer looked quite human. His skin rippled with faces. The faces of those he had consumed. Voices that weren't his came from his mouth, speaking in languages no human had ever heard. I've worn this form for so long, he said, his voice now a chorus of hundreds. Limiting myself to this small shell, but soon I won't need it anymore. The cell door opened on its own. Jack stepped out, his movements fluid and strange, as if his bones worked differently now. Guards rushed toward him, weapons firing. The energy blasts hit him, but seemed to be absorbed into his changing flesh. Jack reached out one hand, and dark mist poured from his fingers like water. It rushed down the corridor, engulfing everything in its path. In the security center, Catherine watched the monitors go dark one by one as entire sections of Tartarus disappeared from the sensors. Get to the emergency shuttle, she ordered Gregory and Elaine. Send out a warning. No one must ever come here again. What about you? Gregory asked. Catherine looked at the last working monitor, which showed Jack Harmon walking calmly through corridors now empty of life. Someone has to try to stop him, or at least slow him down. As Gregory and Elaine reluctantly left, Catherine opened a drawer and removed an old weapon, a pulse pistol that had belonged to her father. It wouldn't stop Jack, she knew that now, but she had to try. The security center door opened. Dark mist seeped in around the edges. Catherine raised her weapon and waited. Lieutenant Gregory Phillips and Dr. Elaine Martinez ran through the dimming corridors of Tartarus. Emergency lights flashed red, casting long shadows. Alarms blared, then suddenly stopped, leaving an eerie silence. The shuttle bay is 2 levels down, Gregory said, checking his tablet. Most of the station's systems were offline, but his device still showed a basic map. They reached an elevator, but the doors wouldn't open. Gregory pried them apart with his hands, revealing an empty shaft. We'll have to use the emergency stairs, he said. As they turned toward the stairwell, dark mist began seeping from a vent in the ceiling. It moved faster now, almost like it was hunting them. Run! Gregory pushed Elaine ahead of him. They sprinted down the corridor, the mist following close behind. They reached the stairwell and slammed the door shut. Through the small window, they watched the mist press against the other side, trying to find a way through. It's learning, Elaine whispered. Adapting. They hurried down the stairs, passing the bodies of guards who had tried to escape earlier. The dead men and women lay with expressions of surprise frozen on their faces. When they reached the shuttle bay level, Gregory stopped suddenly. Listen. The station was silent. No alarms, no emergency systems, no sounds of people. Everyone's gone, Elaine said, her voice hollow. The shuttle bay doors opened automatically as they approached. Inside, 3 small emergency shuttles waited. They were designed to hold 20 people each, but now they sat empty. Why didn't anyone take them? Gregory wondered aloud. Elaine pointed to the bay doors that would open to space. Look. The massive metal doors were covered in what looked like black ice. The dark substance had spread across them in branching patterns. It's blocking the exits, Gregory realized. Trapping everyone inside. They boarded the nearest shuttle anyway. Gregory activated the systems while Elaine tried to contact anyone. Outside Tartarus. Mayday, Mayday. This is Tartarus Station. We have a serious containment breach. Unknown entity has taken over the station. Request immediate assistance. Only static answered her. Gregory checked the shuttle's systems. Bay doors aren't responding to commands. We're trapped here. Suddenly, the shuttle's interior lights flickered. Dark mist began seeping in through the air vents. It found us, Elaine whispered. Meanwhile, in the security center, Warden Catherine Bell stood facing what had once been Jack Harmon. The creature, before her, still had a human shape, but its skin rippled and shifted constantly. Faces appeared and disappeared across its surface, the faces of those it had consumed. What are you? Catherine demanded, her pulse pistol aimed at the creature's head. The being tilted its head, studying her with eyes that swirled like galaxies. When it spoke, its voice was a chorus of hundreds. I am very old, it said. I was wandering the stars, when your ancestors were still climbing trees. I have worn many forms, lived many lives. Why are you here? Why Tartarus? The creature smiled, a terrible sight as multiple mouths moved across its skin. Where better to feed than a place filled with the finest minds and strongest bodies? Killers, strategists, scientists, all gathered in one place, unable to escape. It took a step toward her. Catherine fired her weapon. The energy blast hit the creature but seemed to sink into its flesh without effect. Your prison was perfect for me, it continued. Built to keep dangerous beings in, but also built to keep others out. No interference, no rescue. With shocking speed, the creature closed the distance between them. Before Catherine could fire again, it grabbed her wrist. Its touch was cold, like plunging her arm into ice water. You've been an excellent warden, it said. You created the perfect feeding ground. Catherine felt her strength draining, her thoughts becoming foggy. Why keep me for last? She managed to ask. Because you understand systems, it answered. You know how to control, to contain, to manage. I need those skills for what comes next. As darkness closed in around her vision, Catherine saw images flash through her mind. Stars, planets, vast empty spaces between galaxies. She saw herself, but not herself. Part of something larger, something hungry. In the shuttle bay, Gregory and Elaine fought desperately against the encroaching mist. They had sealed the vents with emergency patches, but the dark substance seeped in around the edges of doors and windows. We need to send a warning, Elaine said, typing frantically at the communication console. Even if we can't escape, we have to let people know what happened here. Gregory nodded, helping her encode a message. Keep it simple, just the facts. As they worked, the shuttle systems began to fail one by one. Lights dimmed. Air circulation stopped. The console flickered. It's draining the power, Gregory said. We don't have much time. Elaine finished the message and pressed send. Warning, sent on all emergency channels. If anyone's listening, they'll know not to come here. The mist had nearly filled the shuttle now. It swirled around their ankles, cold and thick. Do you think it can be stopped? Elaine asked quietly. Gregory took her hand. I don't know, but someone will try. The mist rose higher, surrounding them, completely. Throughout Tartarus Station, similar scenes played out. The last groups of guards and prisoners were found and consumed. The creature that had been Jack Harmon moved through the station, absorbing not just people but energy, matter, information, adding all of it to itself. In the prison's central control hub, the transformed Jack stood before the main computer. His body had changed even more. He no longer looked human at all. His form shifted constantly, growing larger, more complex. Parts of him extended like tendrils into the station systems, merging with the technology. Through the eyes of those he had consumed, he accessed the computer. With their knowledge, he understood its workings. With their skills, he rewrote its programs. Tartarus had been built with one purpose: to keep dangerous beings contained. Now it would serve a new purpose. It would be his cocoon, his womb, the place where he would transform into something even greater. On the main screen, he pulled up star charts of nearby systems. So many worlds, so much life, so much to consume. But first, he needed to finish his metamorphosis. The prison's vast energy reserves would power his transformation. The bodies and minds he had absorbed would form the foundation of his new self. Jack smiled as the station systems came fully under his control. Tartarus had been designed to keep prisoners in and rescuers out. Now it would continue to do exactly that, but for his benefit. Outside, in the emptiness of space, the emergency shuttle's automated signal beacon continued broadcasting its warning. Avoid. Tartarus Station. Unknown entity has taken control. All personnel lost. Do not approach under any circumstances. Repeat, do not approach Tartarus Station. The message beamed out into the darkness, racing ahead of the horror that was growing in. The space between galaxies. 7 days passed with no communication from Tartarus Station. The Galactic Security Council met in emergency session on their headquarters planet. Representatives from 12 species gathered around a large table, their faces grim. "The last message we received was a warning to stay away," said Council Leader Ben Adams, a tall man with gray hair. "All attempts to contact the station have failed." Admiral Lisa Reed, head of the military division, stood up. "We sent automated drones to investigate. The footage they transmitted is disturbing." She activated a screen on the wall. It showed Tartarus Station floating in the darkness of space. But the station looked different. Black growths covered parts of its surface like strange coral or ice formations. The metal structure seemed to pulse slightly as if breathing. "Is it alive?" someone whispered. "We don't know," Admiral Reed answered. "The drones couldn't get close. Some kind of energy field surrounds the station, destroying anything that approaches." "What about the people inside?" asked a council member. "How many were on the station?" "Over 1,000 inmates and 200 staff," Ben Adams said. "We have to assume they're all lost." After much debate, the council made its decision. A special forces team would be sent to Tartarus. Their mission: investigate what happened, rescue any survivors, and if necessary, destroy the station. 3 days later, the military vessel Horizon approached Tartarus. Captain Laura Dunn stood on the bridge, watching the prison station grow, larger in the view screen. "The energy field has weakened," reported her science officer. "We can get through in a small shuttle." Captain Dunn selected 5 soldiers for the mission. They wore the most advanced protective gear available and carried heavy weapons. She would lead them herself. As their shuttle approached Tartarus, they saw the changes up close. The black growths covered more of the station now. They seemed to move slightly like seaweed in gentle currents. "Stay alert," Captain Dunn told her team. "We don't know what we're dealing with." They docked at a small emergency port. The station's systems recognized their military codes and allowed them entry. Inside, they found dark corridors lit only by the glow of the strange black growth that spread along the walls. "Air is breathable," reported a soldier named Ryan, checking his equipment. "No signs of radiation or toxic substances." "Life signs?" Captain Dunn asked. Ryan checked his scanner. "None. Just some strange energy readings, coming from the central area." They moved deeper into the station, weapons ready. The place was eerily silent. No alarms, no machinery sounds, none of the normal noise of a space station. just a faint, rhythmic pulsing that seemed to come from the walls themselves. "It's like walking through a giant heart," whispered another soldier. They found no bodies, no signs of violence, just empty rooms and corridors covered in the black growth. In the prison cell blocks, they found the same emptiness. Each cell stood open, abandoned. In one section, strange symbols were carved into the walls. "Captain," called Ryan from a few steps ahead. "There's something here." In the center of the prison, they found a single occupied cell. The door was open, but the inmate inside made no attempt to leave. He sat on his bed reading a book as if nothing unusual had happened. The man looked up as they approached. He appeared completely normal. Average height, brown hair, pleasant face. Only his eyes seemed strange, dark, and somehow deep. "Welcome," he said with a gentle smile. "I've been expecting you." Captain Dunn raised her weapon. "Identify yourself." "My name is Jack Harmon," the man said. "I'm the last inmate of Tartarus prison." "Where is everyone else?" demanded Ryan. Jack gestured to the walls around them. "They're still here. They're all still here. They're part of me now, part of what I'm becoming." A chill ran down Captain Dunn's spine. The walls seemed to pulse faster at Jack's words. "What happened here?" she asked. Jack stood slowly. The soldiers' weapons followed his movement. "Evolution happened here, Captain. Transformation. For centuries I've wandered from world to world, taking one body at a time, but here in this perfect cage I found a feast. So many minds, so many bodies, all trapped with nowhere to run." "You ate them?" Ryan's voice was horrified. "Consume them," Jack corrected. "Every molecule, every memory, every skill, they're not gone. They're preserved in me. Eternal in a way humans can never be alone." Captain Dunn had heard enough. "You're under arrest for mass murder. You'll come with us to answer for your crimes." Jack laughed softly. "I'm afraid that won't be possible. You see, I'm not finished yet. And you've arrived just in time to join us." He raised his hand. The black growth on the walls suddenly came alive, flowing like liquid toward the soldiers. Two men fired their weapons. The energy blast hit Jack but seemed to pass through him without effect. "Retreat!" Captain Dunn shouted. They ran back the way they had come, the strange black substance flowing after them like a wave. Ryan was the first to fall. The black liquid caught his foot and he stumbled. In seconds it covered him completely. He didn't even have time to scream before he was gone. Two more soldiers fell before they reached the shuttle. Captain Dunn and her last remaining team member. Sam sealed the door behind them. "Get us out of here," Dunn yelled as they strapped in. Sam activated the engines, but nothing happened. "Something's wrong, we're not getting power." Outside the shuttle windows, they could see the black substance covering the hull, working its way inside through small cracks. "Send the message," Captain Dunn ordered. "Full quarantine protocol." With shaking hands, Sam transmitted their final report along with the order to destroy Tartarus Station completely. As the black substance seeped into the shuttle, Jack Harmon appeared outside their window. His form was changing again, becoming less human with each passing moment. "Thank you for your contribution." His voice somehow reached them inside the shuttle. "Your knowledge of the fleet, of military protocols, it will be most useful." The substance reached Captain Dunn's feet. She felt cold spreading up her legs. As darkness closed in, she saw a vision, herself floating among stars. Her consciousness stretched across vast distances, part of something ancient and hungry that was only beginning to awaken. On the horizon, they received the quarantine order. With heavy hearts, they followed protocol. The ship moved to a safe distance and launched its most powerful weapons at Tartarus Station. The explosions were blinding, tearing the station apart piece by piece. For a moment it seemed to work. Then the debris began to move, flowing back together like drops of mercury joining into a larger whole. The reformed mass no longer resembled a space station. It had become something else, a dark, shifting entity that pulsed with inner light. It began to move, accelerating away from the stunned military vessel. On the bridge of the horizon, alarms blared as sensors tracked the entity's course. "Where is it going?" asked the first officer. The navigator checked his readings, then looked up with fear in his eyes. "It's heading toward the nearest inhabited system." In the darkness of space, the entity that had once been Jack Harmon, then Tartarus Station, and now something beyond definition, moved with purpose toward distant stars. Within it, over 1,000 minds worked as one, their combined knowledge serving a single hunger that had existed since the dawn of time. The last inmate of the universe's most secure prison was free at last and very, very hungry.